And as I wrote it, I was like, this is a really good story about parenting because all parents get a diagnosis somewhere along the way. Maybe it's not Down syndrome, maybe it's later. But it was really about like, how do you sort of step up to the plate, play the game, and continue with grace and dignity and live the life that you've been given.
Right. I love your haircut.
Thank you.
It's so cute.
I literally just cut it I was trying so hard to grow it out. So it's been like you'll see in the book one picture, it's just like here.
Yeah.
And I finally was like, you know what? I called this woman who comes to my house and she'll come like irregularly, like every once a year or once every 16 months. And I'm like, just cut it. Just cut it all off.
How funny.
She's like, okay.
And she did. She did a good job.
Thank you.
So you wrote a book.
I wrote a book.
You wrote a book about your wonderful son, Owen.
Yes.
So tell me about this book.
So I guess I wasn't very successful in business because the last 3 jobs I had, I've been laid off.
Oh,
so,
really?
As an executive.
Why does that mean that doesn't mean that was you?
But I found that it was almost like the universe telling me it's time to do something you really love. Like, you keep sort of sidling that way thinking, and I had always been a writer. So I was always writing. When my son was a year old, which we didn't know he had Down syndrome until he was 7 days old. So we were very sideswiped by the diagnosis. And he was my first. So what do you do with that? You have no role models. You have no siblings to say, okay, I know what a typical kid is like. So, and I grew up with 8 brothers and sisters.
Oh my goodness.
So I'm number 6. So there was that whole thing. And so I just, I wrote what I thought was going to be a book when he was about a year old, thinking I need to get all this down. And I had kept a journal since I was 5 weeks pregnant.
Wow.
Never having any idea he would have Down syndrome.
Wow.
Yeah. So I kind of wrote something and then I thought it's not enough. There's not really a story there because you can't just write about the first year of someone's life with Down syndrome. Like, what is the story? And I put it away like any good writer does. I put it in the side of my drawer and left it there. And just years later, as like another business that I just was not struggling with and it wasn't working out and I ended up getting laid off. And I just thought, now's the time. Like I started consulting as a marketing person and PR. So, and my life had always been writing. Like, you do marketing, do PR, you write web stories, you write press releases, I was doing journalism for a long time. So writing had always been there. But it was about putting it into sort of a creative nonfiction story.
Got it.
So I did what people had told me in other ways. Hire somebody if you don't know how to do something. So I hired a book coach.
Oh, great.
And Kim O'Hara, and she was great. Oh, am I allowed to say her name?
Yeah. If she's okay with it, we're okay with it.
And she really helped me pull out sort of the essence of the story. And of course, I read a lot of memoirs, and there's a whole way that memoirs are structured. So they're really about a time. You don't just throw up your whole life on the paper and go chronologically. You really try to pull out just the pieces for that particular story. And as I wrote it, I was like, this is a really good story about parenting because all parents get a diagnosis somewhere along the way. Maybe it's not Down syndrome, maybe it's later. But it was really about like, how do you sort of step up to the plate, play the game, and continue with grace and dignity and live the life that you've been given.
Right.
So that's kind of what I did. And it took about 3 years. My first draft I started in 2019. I wrote that during 2020. So COVID was really good because I had time. We all had time, right? Yep. Nothing but time. And then I hired an editor. Like I kind of had to hire a lot of people to get it in the shape to where I felt like it was worth putting out to beta readers and getting people to read it. And then I went out to about 10 or 12 beta readers. And I said, I need you to tell me, I give them a list of questions like what's good, what's bad, is there any awkward parts with the character, with my role or any of the roles? And I was expecting like all this feedback. And I literally got people going, it's amazing. You have to get it out there.
Wow. That's awesome.
So that was kind of a big like boost to say, I really need to publish it. And one of them was one of the beta readers was my son's 5th grade teacher. And she was like, even educators need to read this. It's really important because I touch on inclusion, which, as you know, our kids went to middle school. We did inclusion for Owen from 2nd grade on. And the school he went to, he was the first kid there with Down syndrome. So we had to who was included.
Right.
So we sort of had to set the process for him in elementary school, then middle school, and even high school. And there have been kids with Down syndrome who have followed him in that path because the path was there.
Because he said it.
Yes.
Because you guys said it.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So Georgia and Owen went to middle school together. So I know you from middle school.
Yeah.
I can't say I know you very well, but I definitely would know your name and say hi to you on the street. If we were at Trader Joe's, I'd go, Suzanne, and remember you very well from middle school. But we have a friend in common that I am still close to, Christy, who told me about your book. And I was like, oh my God, I would love to talk to you about your book because Owen was very much included. He was really a part of their class. There was no difference between Owen and any other kid in their program at their school, in my opinion. I don't know if that was your experience with other parents or other kids, but as I observed, he seemed very included.
And that is a testimony to when he was young, my husband and I both agreed life was not going to be a special needs class. So how do we make that the reality? And if you believe life is always going to be a special needs class, what happens when you're not in class? So that was where inclusion came into play, where we pushed for inclusion in his elementary school, which we didn't get to until 2nd grade because we, as I said, first child, I listened to what the school district said. And those classes weren't appropriate for him. Now, I'm just talking about my scenario because for every parent, it's different. For every child, inclusion looks different. To me, inclusion is about find where you can be included. Maybe some people need that structure of that small classroom, but then go to the park. Put your kid out in the park with all the other kids. Like inclusion can be found anywhere.
Totally.
I took him to, we went to museums together. We went to the zoo together. We did everything other parents did. I feel like I finally started to get the sense of, oh yeah, now he has to learn to be independent because elementary school is great. It's like this womb. It's warm and soft and the teachers love our kids and you handhold them to the teacher and the teacher hands them back, right? So middle school is where suddenly kids are walking to school, being dropped off, walking to the liquor store down the street, right? Going to the ice cream place.
Yep.
And I needed to find a way to how do I make him be able to be more, to navigate campus, to be able to just at the end of the day, how is he going to be able to live on his own? How is he going to be able to manage life on his own if I don't start with baby steps?
Right.
So even so much as the first day of middle school, I thought, I walked to the gate. I'm like, hey, my kid has a disability, walking him into class, thinking that's what we do. But then I realized that's so wrong. I got to stop that. So each step was, I just sent him through the gate. And the next thing was, I'd park the car down the street. Then I parked around the street and I was like, okay, go to school. So bit by bit, I gave him that ability to be able to move on his own through his landscape. And they were small baby steps. But now he's at Ventura College. He takes 2 classes a week. And I drop him off at the corner of campus, and he walks to campus, across campus to his class, just like any other college student.
That's so great.
So
that's what you said about inclusion being where it's appropriate, I think is really important too. I know Isla, I don't know if you know this, but Isla is pretty significantly dyslexic.
Okay.
And
I didn't know.
she has an IEP. She was identified in 1st grade. I saw it when she was 4. I was like, she's not plugging into letters, no interest. And it didn't feel right. I did have an older child who is she's not super academic, but she's a very typical learner, just hit every mark when she was supposed to. So I was like, something's not connecting here. And Isla was not a very verbal child. She was a very physical child, but she didn't express herself verbally. She spoke at the appropriate age, but it was, 1 or 2 words as opposed to, Georgia, who was like, I would like to smell the flowers, mommy. And And I would just go, And you're like, okay, are we smelling the flowers? Great. So I knew that the way that she processed language was different than Georgia, but not necessarily different than other kids until we got to preschool, 4-year-old preschool. 3-year-old, she was fine. And I asked the preschool teacher, what do you think about this? And she was like, she's a summer birthday and she'll outgrow it. And I went, okay. We got to kindergarten. I was like, my kid's really smart. Like when we're talking about dolls or dogs or when we're at the park playing and she's chattering with me, really smart kid. Right. She's the only kid in kindergarten that doesn't have her ABCs. Interesting that she's the only one. What's going on? And the elementary school was like, she's just a late bloomer, summer. And I was like, I just don't, okay. And then we got to first grade, and by Christmas, her first grade teacher went, something's going on. I think she's dyslexic. Let's have her tested. And she was actually dyslexic. But in kindergarten, when I saw that she was the only kid in her class that did not have her ABCs, I started a Girl Scout troop. And I went, I'm inviting all the girls in her class that she likes because that's going to be a leveler. That's going to level everybody out. It's not about reading a book. It's not about doing a math equation. It's about, at that age, arts and crafts and soft skills, how to, how to play with each other and how to talk to each other and how to work together to do a project. And I was like, if I can do that and level the playing field for her, then hopefully she can carry some of that into the classroom so that her peers will see that she's just like them. She just doesn't read the same way everybody else does. And I think it really was one of, I don't know how I thought to do that. I don't know where that came from in my own.
It's called mom instinct.
It's something, right?
Because you had, like, that's the thing. You had the instinct that something wasn't right. And I think what I love about that is, first of all, I believe every child has a disability, right? Everybody has a disability.
Oh, totally.
Somehow, somewhere we all do, whether it's a big one or a small one or a hidden one or completely visible.
I agree.
But when we decided to put Owen into his elementary school, we held him back that grade so that he repeated second grade. And I thought, well, we don't know anyone. We had lived in our neighborhood. We moved to our neighborhood so that we could go to this school. And then he couldn't go to the school. And he had to go to another school because we put him in the special day class, which was like 5 miles away. And I was like the mom, like a kid in a candy store. I walked by that school and I wanted him in that school so badly, but we kept being turned away. And it was the school district's way of saying, we don't, pushing us kindly away from inclusion until we said, enough. We want him in our elementary school. He deserves to go to school in our neighborhood school, least restrictive environment.
Right.
And we never lawyered up. We didn't have to, but we had to at some point take a really strong stand. And it just, once we got in there, then it was like a whole different set of like, now how do we navigate this? Because the school had not had anyone with Down syndrome in their school for as long as they could remember.
Wow.
Is what one of the office staff said. And I swear she'd been working there for at least 20, 30 years.
Wow. Wife of the Party is brought to you by Lumi. Lumi is another product I actually love to use. I love their deodorant wipes. And, they have a deodorant cream. I don't know about you. This may be a little TMI. But as I'm in menopause, my boobs are sweating. It's the weirdest thing. It's never happened to me before. But they have a deodorant cream at Lumi. You can just wipe underneath your boobs and you're set for 72 hours. It's kind of fantastic. That cream can go anywhere in your body where you have sweat or odor. All kinds of places in a woman's body in particular have odor and sweat. So that cream can go anywhere. The deodorant wipes fit in my gym bag. I love them. I use them all the time. Lumi's starter pack is perfect for new customers. It comes with a solid stick deodorant, cream tube deodorant, 2 free products of your choice like a mini body wash or the deodorant wipes I was talking about, and it comes with free shipping. As a special offer for listeners, new customers get $5 off a Lumi starter pack with code WIFE30 at LumiDeodorant.com. That equates to over 40% off your starter pack when you visit LumiDeodorant.com and use code WIFE30. Wife of the Party is sponsored by BetterHelp. You know me, big proponent of therapy. I love therapy. And, with the new year comes a lot of New Year's resolutions. And I think sometimes with a lot of New Year's resolutions, we reflect on who we are and what we've accomplished and what we want. And sometimes it can make you feel kind of bummed out. So why not talk to somebody? Why not talk to a professional? Why not get your year started off right with some support, with a mentor, with some help? BetterHelp is a great place to go for therapy that's easy, that's accessible. You can change therapists if you're not happy. It's just kind of like a great gift to give yourself to start off the new year. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online. It's designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. Celebrate the progress you've already made. Visit BetterHelp.com/wife today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/wife.
So first, when he started second grade, I decided to take this. There's an essay called Welcome to Holland. And it was written by a mother who has a child with Down syndrome. And it was an allegory about how you want to go on a trip and you're going to go to Italy. So you pack your bags and you learn the language and you get really immersed in it. And you get on the plane and you land and they say, welcome to Holland. And you're like, but I didn't want to go to Holland. And everyone's coming back from Italy saying how great it is. And you'll always regret that you didn't get to go. But one day you wake up and you realize there's tulips and there's art and it's a beautiful city.
Yeah.
It's not Italy, but it's its own quiet beauty.
Right.
And so I took this essay and then I wrote a letter to all the parents just saying, my son with Down syndrome is in your class. Your students might, they'll meet him. He has Down syndrome. This is what it means. I was very layman's term, very basic. If you want to explain to them what that means, here's a way to do it. But also know that he likes One Direction and he loves Scooby-Doo and he likes boy bands and he has a sibling who likes this. So he's a lot like your child too.
Yeah.
And so we sent that. I had to get it approved by the principal. We sent it to all the parents in the classroom. I had so many parents coming up and saying, what a great letter. It was so beautiful. And, by the way, my other child had this issue or that issue. But once I put it out there, the kids were like, so he's part of our landscape. Yeah. Kids just are curious. They just want to know. Mm-hmm. And once you explain it, they're like, okay, cool. No big deal.
And they normalize
yes
so quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And Georgia broke her jaw when she was 3. And I remember the doctor saying, don't apply the pain you think she's in to her. She's not in that pain. Kids' bones aren't solid yet. They're still a little bit spongy. So you falling with this injury would be terrible. Her falling with this injury is not terrible. So don't apply what you think she's experiencing to her. Let her tell you what she's experiencing. If she's telling you it hurts and you give her some Tylenol and she's good, don't worry about it. That's what should be going on. And that was such an amazing lesson to apply to all of her childhood and Isla's childhood about everything. Now, sometimes the opposite's true. A girl not texting you back and thinking you've been ghosted is the end of the world. And as an adult, we're like, not the end of the world. She may be grounded. She may be asleep. She may have a headache. Don't worry about it. Just see how it. But like including Owen or someone like Owen, someone with some kind of distinction, something that's not something you see every day, perhaps in your day-to-day life, it's so easy for kids to just pivot into and lean into and appreciate in a different way. And we tend to apply what we think they think to them.
That's true. I never even thought of that.
It is what we do. And how are we supposed to know? Until someone says something like that to you, what are you supposed to think? Of course, I think my daughter's in as much pain as I would think she would be in if I broke my jaw. But she's not.
Because we just have been through more pain for years.
Exactly. We have more experience of that. And we have solid bones and theirs are not. And, a lot of science to that. But I don't know. What's been my experience with having a kid that I've had to advocate for since first grade and really get stern with and lose battles with districts and teachers. What I find interesting is we live in this We live in California where everything is so liberal and inclusive and empowered and everybody's the same, no matter race, sex, age, gender, national origin, all whatever. We want everyone to feel included. Do you know they didn't recognize dyslexia as a disorder until Isla was in middle school?
They didn't?
It was not recognized. She had to get qualified for her IEP for something else to get services.
Which affects so many kids.
One in five. 1 in 5 children are dyslexic. So you go to my state of Georgia, state of Georgia, and dyslexia is identified as soon as possible and remediated in every public school in the entire state right away.
Why are we so far behind?
I don't understand, because Down syndrome and of the like children are just included in what I understand to be the state of Georgia's I had Down syndrome children in my classroom when I was young.
And what's funny is there's other states that don't, that you can't even fight for it. They're like, it's not available. I have one woman who has a son, cutest little guy, and it's her youngest, and she's just desperate. So parents are going and paying for private schools to be able to put their child with Down syndrome in an inclusive setting.
That's insane.
Like how bad is that?
That's pretty bad. I mean, that's really bad. Listen, if a child...
And by the way, it's not all across the state of California. There are districts that don't have inclusion. We moved, and we're not in the same district, and we moved Owen's senior year, and it was tail end of COVID, and the first thing they said to me is, just so you know, inclusion's off the table. And I said, well... He's 18 already. I'm like, just let him bake cookies and wash cars his last year. It'll be fun. And they kind of looked at me, and I was joking, half joking.
Yeah.
But I said, but he is to be allowed to do every single senior event that happens with whether if he needs supports, you're supporting him with that. But he is going to be allowed to do everything. There is not going to be any, he can't do some senior, whatever the opportunities were. And they're like, okay, that's fair. And turns out, like, we went to, it was a big high school compared to where he had been at. And as soon as he got onto campus, within a week, he knew the campus. So that was fine, because that's him. He memorizes things. He has his superpower is he can visually memorize things really well. And so the first week, his teacher calls and she's like, well, Owen is leaving at lunchtime and going and sitting by somewhere else. And I said, so what's wrong with that?
Yeah.
Well, he can't do that. I said, it's a free period. Every student can go where they want, right? Well, you understand. I mean, he's under my care. I said, are you kidding me? Do we have to have a meeting so I can get it written into his IEP so he can go sit at lunch where he wants to sit, which was, of course, by the cute girls.
Right.
Wherever they happen to be.
Of course.
And once they realized, like, I don't know if they realized how inane it was that I had to put it out there like that, but they're like, okay, well, he's fine as long as you're okay with it. And he would be that kid that would just be like, he wanted his freedom, and we had built that. How can you take that away now? That is what inclusion does. It offers them a piece of freedom they may not have had before.
Right.
So consequently, he also tried out for the swim team, made varsity swim team.
Amazing.
I got him a little write-up in the local newspaper.
That's amazing.
And then he got an award from the principal. I mean, he'd only been there his senior year. And the principal, I said, doesn't he deserve like a good citizenship award or something? Because I was like, senior awards, like, we haven't been here long, but come on, he's made a difference in the school already.
Yeah.
And so the principal was like, well, I kind of decide on those awards, but thank you for pointing that out. So they gave him the principal's most inspirational award.
Oh, wow. That's so great.
So
that's
it was pretty
really
exciting.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an interesting journey to have a child that has a distinction that is recognizable, even though to look at Isla, she looks like every other teenager her age. But when you sit down and read a book with her, you go, oh, okay, this is not, she should be reading a little better than this if you're driving. You know what I mean? These two things don't compute. And going through the process of college applications for her was really fascinating also, in that I had so many people go, ooh, this is going to be tough. And I'm like, is it? Because I bet you at the college level, especially in art college, gets kids like my kid all the time. Like she doesn't think like you and I. She thinks like an artist or like a creative. And that dyslexia gives her that superpower because she processes information and the world in a very different way. So I think colleges are going to see it as an asset. They won't care if she's a C student if in whatever her focus is, she's thriving.
Right.
And boy, the stress that she went through to go through the typical college application process was not pleasant to watch. And as much as I tried to like steer the ship with the other adults in charge, I think some of them had a really hard time letting go of that typical path and seeing her as someone. And, you know, our attitude was, hey, if she applies to every college she wants to go and she doesn't go in, there's lots of places for her. We don't care. But to have her not try for her dream and then deal with the consequence of not getting that dream is not real life. You know, in real life, sometimes you try for the cute boy and he doesn't like you. And you have to figure out, well, why and what's wrong with me? And then you come to the conclusion that nothing's wrong with you. It just wasn't meant to be because the right path will rise to meet you, kind of like getting laid off from a couple jobs. And then all of a sudden you're writing the book that I'm talking about today. That's how life works. In my opinion, that's how life works.
And so it's very interesting you bring up the whole college application and experience. So Owen, because he was included with typical kids since second grade, and actually some of his best friends, like we just had lunch with his friend Lauren, who's in the book. They've known each other since second grade, and she's now at Stanford. Mm-hmm. She's home on Thanksgiving break. We see her for, she always makes a point to see him. Mm-hmm. So he has had this group of typical kids who he's aged up with. Mm-hmm. Well, he's now 20. They're on their second year of college. Mm-hmm. And so when they all were getting into Stanford and, Chapman and all these schools, and he was hearing about it, he said, Mom, I want to go to college too. I was like, and so you shall.
Right?
It's like, how am I going to do this? And so then I heard about a website called thinkcollege.net, which, as with anything, you got to keep your eye on, what is going to happen with my son 2 years from now or whatever. Mm-hmm. He's not like a typical kid where I can say, he'll figure it out. He'll get a job, he'll work full time, get an apartment. And so I started looking at this and I was like, okay, we're in Ventura County now. So Ventura College has these neurodiverse classes. So I said, we'll apply there. So we do the application together. It's super modified and simple. He gets this, and he had been wanting to go to university, right? Because like all his friends are going away and living in the dorms. And so I said, but Owen, I'm like, look, you got a letter from Ventura College. So we open it and I'm like, look, you got into Ventura College. And he looks at me and he's like, okay, so what? And I'm like, so what? You got into a college.
That's huge.
I had to convince him that it was college, even if it was just a community college. And so he was like, okay, Mom, I guess you're right. I got into college. But his expectations were so high. And so I had to kind of sit him down and say, look, you are on a different path. You are going to do this. And I'm pretty harsh sometimes with them. I'm like, this is what you're going to do.
Right.
Like, you are going to do this. You're going to get some credits. You're going to manage. You're going to learn a little bit of college. Then we will apply to some other colleges. Meanwhile, I'm like thinking there's all of 3 colleges in the state of California where he can live in a dorm-like or apartment setting, right? And all for kids who have a disability. So you have to have a verified disability. Mm-hmm. So we start looking. So I said, look, you do 1 year at Ventura College, just like your friends who are doing community college.
Right.
And we apply to universities.
Yeah.
So last year, we find out about UC Davis. I convinced my other friend who has a daughter with Down syndrome, but her daughter has diabetes, so she can't necessarily live away from home at any point. She said, well, we can't really look at colleges because my daughter can't really go away. I said, okay, so maybe we have kids with Down syndrome. Doesn't mean we can't have a road trip and do a college experience looking at colleges. And I'm like, come on, let's do this.
That's
so we
great.
literally I convinced her to go with the two of us, with our two kids, went to UC Davis, spent 3 days there. It was so fun. And I said, see, it's kind of like if we squint, we can just pretend we were parents with typical kids.
But did the kids have fun?
They had fun. So Owen's like, I want to go to UC Davis.
Oh.
And we ended up seeing a friend of ours' daughter up there when we were there. So we come home and I said, okay, let's apply. So we do our due diligence. He had been volunteering for, I'm like, you got to have some experience, some work experience. We volunteered for the motion picture home in Woodland Hills. We were working the memory care unit. So it was a really good experience for him because, first of all, he had to learn the code to get on the floor because it's all people with Alzheimer's. They're not allowed off the floor. You know, there's a very routine appeal to it because he likes routine. We had our certain people. They gave us people where they're like, we need you to, these are the people that don't get a lot of visitors. So we did our round robin and we spent time with them once a week. It was really sweet. And he's always like, Mom, we got to go back and see my friends there. And so, but funny enough, and I'll just digress for 1 minute on this subject because it is kind of saddening and disheartening to see people with Alzheimer's in that decline, that cognitive decline. And, you know, people with Down syndrome are 50% more likely to get early onset of Alzheimer's by the time they're in their 50s or 60s.
Know that.
So we really, really need a cure for Alzheimer's sooner rather than later. But one day there was, you know, it was really hot. It's in Woodland Hills. It was like in the hundreds, you know, one of those sticky kind of days. And even though we were in a building, we couldn't feel the heat. You know, the natives were kind of restless. They were just like, people were angry. There were like people saying things. And one woman started crying and telling us she had to get back to her home in England. We needed to take her to her flight. And another woman tried to take Owen's phone. And he's like, Mom. And I'm like, it's okay, Owen. I said, you know, they have Alzheimer's. I said, it's okay. We'll manage. We get in the car and I said, Owen, you do know what happened, what's going on with them, right? And I go, you know what Alzheimer's is, right? And he said, yeah, Mom, it's a disease that hurts their brain. And he said, and it's really sad and it's really disheartening. And I just literally, I was like, he gets it.
Yeah.
He understands.
He does.
And it was just a moment where I thought, he's going to be okay. This kid knows how to embrace life, how to embrace the sad parts of life and the happy parts. But I made him do this so that he could get experience. And it turns out he loved doing it. You know, like, I'm kind of the puppet behind the curtain because if he wants to do things, I have to start putting the blocks in place for it. So going back to UC Davis, so we apply, and he was sure he was going to get in, right? I think because he's always had this sort of magical life where good things happen. So we got there were over 100 applicants. We got an interview. So we went back up to UC Davis, and he was so excited. Me and my husband went with him. And he had this interview where he went and interviewed by himself. And I was like, uh-oh, I can't control what he says in the interview.
Yeah.
But so he comes out and he was like, I was really confident, Mom. I did what you said. I was like, I said, okay. And I'm like, all right. So, you know, we get home. I'm thinking this is good. Maybe he got in. There's only 12 spots. They interview 30 kids. I mean, it's like a typical kid trying to get into Harvard, right?
Yeah.
So he gets the email and I go, okay, let's open it. And I'm thinking, I hope he got in. Well, he didn't get in.
Yeah.
And he was like, his face started to fall. And I said, you know what, Owen? Not every kid got into every school they wanted to get into, even their top choice. So you learn to live with disappointment. And we do what they said. They said, apply again next year. We like your skills. We think there might be a place for you in the future. I said, so you need to look at it as every person is disappointed at some point in their life.
Right.
And he thought about it and he's like, you're right, Mom. You're right. Okay, so what do you have to do now? So then, you know, and this is where I think the universe works out because my book came out. He could not have been at the 5 book signings I had if he was up at UC Davis, right?
No, he couldn't have. That's true.
He could not have been here for you to meet him for the podcast, could he? No, he would not have been here for it. Right. So I really feel like the universe had our back on this one.
I think it almost always has your back anyway.
Yeah.
Because exactly what you described about being laid off twice now pushed you into writing this book. And I guarantee you the book is going to help so many people. Like you said, the 5th grade teacher said educators should read this book. I really think they should. We had educators in elementary school literally in a parent-teacher conference just shake their head and say, I don't know what you're going to do about Isla. And I'm thinking, you're a teacher. You're a teacher.
It's crazy.
You can't have a conversation with my kid. You can't look at her peer group. The people that the children she's gravitating toward are in the highly gifted programs. So she's clearly very smart. She just doesn't read like everybody else, which to me doesn't matter. And I couldn't understand why these teachers who were some of the most revered teachers at our elementary school, everybody wanted their kids in that class, in that teacher's class, would literally be like, I just don't know what you're going to do with her. And I just thought, you just are either dumb or not a good person or really have the wrong priorities as a teacher. They should be learning so much more than read and write and arithmetic in third grade. You know what I mean?
Well, so here's what I understand is the fact that the district kept kids like ours out of the high-performing elementary schools, right? That's why there was no kid with Down syndrome at our elementary school for a long time.
Yeah.
And my thing is, how is the world going to understand our kids if they are not in the landscape?
Right.
And my whole, as a reluctant advocate, I guess I'm an advocate because I have to put him in the landscape. He has to be in front of all of you. And it's funny because right before we moved, there was one night we went walking down Ventura Boulevard. I was house sitting for somebody. And Owen was with me, and I just said, come on, let's go walk up to the pizza place you like, and we'll just walk down. It was a beautiful summer night. And there's that area of Ventura Boulevard where there's the restaurants. I'm trying to think of the name.
Like the counter and...
Further down
Okay.
by, what is it? It's just the next block over kind of by CPK and then further up there.
Yeah.
And so we're walking through, and I always have this thing I do now because I see the way people respond to Owen. There's people that look at him and they can't stop staring, and they just stare. And I wait and I catch them and I look at them and I give them a big smile. And the people who don't know what to do with that look away and they're super embarrassed. And then there's the people that I know somebody like my kid or has been around people like my kid, because when I give them that like big smile, they smile back.
Of
and
course.
They nod. And it's just funny how I see those people are so afraid of my kid to this day because they have not been around people with special needs.
Right. And that is because they're not in school.
Yeah.
They're not in school.
Because where do you learn? You learn when you're little. You learn to accept those people when you're in kindergarten, when it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
When there's no, I don't know. There's such a bias to so many people by the time they're, it's all set in place by the time you're in middle school and high school.
So
right?
true. It's elementary schools where you have the opportunity to do that. And actually the academics should not be so rigorous that a teacher can't handle that in a certain way. You know what I mean? The thing what I kept hearing was, I don't have time to focus on her. And I'd go, well, okay. But can you figure out a moment in the day or something that she can do that helps her thrive? There's got to be something, an exercise, the Pledge of Allegiance. I don't know. There's something in your daily routine. She had one teacher that did the most brilliant thing in fourth grade. This one teacher had two kids, one that was terrible at math and mine who was terrible at reading. And she partnered them. And
Brilliant.
And she allowed them to talk about the assignments to each other in class, where no one else could talk in class. But Isla and her friend could talk, and they actually helped each other with their weaknesses because they were exact opposites. And her mom and I both have said that was their best year in school all the way through. So they lifted each other up. And we're inspired to collaborate in their learning from that one teacher just saying, oh, no, I got this. I may not be able to sit with your child and help her read, but this child can. And this child is thriving. And this child is happy to help her because your child is helping that child with her math.
And don't you love when you find those teachers?
Yes.
Don't they just they're that teacher that you just
adore.
Yeah.
And makes a mark that lasts forever.
Yeah.
And where I can say to Isla, remember what she did? That's what we all need teammates in life that complement us in every capacity, everybody can't be just like me because then there's no new ideas.
Right.
A new idea comes from someone who's not like you. And so finding complementary people who can help you with your weaknesses and your strengths, help them out, is a huge lesson forever. I think it helps you form really good friendships and work partnerships and teaches you to evaluate yourself, and not in a judgmental way, but in a way to say we all have strengths and weaknesses. Look at my friend here who has the opposite thing that I have.
Right.
And not everybody performs as a gifted child. Those gifted children had other challenges.
Yeah,
some of them social, some of them not athletic, some of them not musical, fill in the blank. Some of them, just didn't process the world in a different way. Some of them thought their little poop didn't stink. And that's it. That is also in some ways.
And some of them are COVID kids. I feel like my daughter has really struggled with that.
Yeah.
You know what? I feel like, I always thought I'd have really academic kids because I was very academic.
Yeah.
And, my first child had Down syndrome. So there you go. That set the bar. And my other two were in sports. So I have my daughter, and then I have a younger son who's a basketball player. Mm-hmm. But funny enough, and I was curious what you thought about this, because you have kids the same age as mine, right? So your oldest is my
17,
oldest. Yeah. I feel like the whole COVID thing messed with my two younger kids worse than anybody.
For sure.
I know everyone said, the poor 3, 4, 5-year-olds during COVID, or 4 and 5-year-olds that it affected so much. Mm-hmm. I'm like, no, those kids are resilient. Mm-hmm. They don't have much to go by, right? Mm-hmm. But I think about, and my daughter's struggling a lot right now. And I think my younger son is too, but he just doesn't show it as much. Mm-hmm. But I realized, looking back, I thought it hit them 7th, 8th, 9th grade. Okay, so my son was in 7th grade. My daughter was in 9th. It was 6th and 7th, or 7th and 8th, and then 9th. So I think about it, for 2 years, we kept them in our house. Mm-hmm. They were not allowed to see anyone physically outside the family unit. That was just kind of what we were told to do, and we did. I'm a rule follower. Mm-hmm. But not only that, we told them, don't go 6 feet near anybody. Don't hug anybody you don't know. And don't look at anybody the wrong way. Don't sneeze. And God forbid, don't ever, put your tongue down someone's throat.
Heck no.
For how many years did we tell them? The most formative years for our kids, right? Mm-hmm. And it pains me to see them where they still like to be in their room. Mm-hmm. They don't have I don't see them forming relationships in the same way we were. By high school, we were all like, oh my God, that cute boy over there. It scares me a lot, because I think that might be the generation of kids that got hurt the most.
I think you're right. I think Isla, being in 8th and 9th grade when this happened, she didn't get to graduate.
Yep.
She didn't get to be the big boss of the school, 8th graders.
Yep.
And then she lost her freshman year, which is when you start sussing out who people are and who do you want to be friends with for all of high school.
Yep.
So she didn't get to do those two social pieces and stayed in her room. She developed a lot of anxiety. She was became scared in her room and then scared outside of her room. We were like, well, you're scared in and out for different reasons. And it was all from the pandemic, I think. She was also predisposed to a little anxiety, but the pandemic just made it so much harder. And Georgia, being that this was her sophomore, junior year, she'd already formed friendships freshman year.
Same with Owen.
Yeah. And then senior year, with some friendships, picked up where she left off. And with some friendships, she shifted and became very connected with those girls in her senior year. Like almost like the desperate, I haven't seen you for 2 years and now I can't let you out of my sight. I'm going to eat, sleep, drink, breathe, everything you. It was so intense. And Isla just kind of showed up sophomore year going, I don't know any of these girls. She went to a brand new school for high school where she knew nobody. No one from her middle school went to her high school. So I hear you and I agree with you. I think it is really hard. I was watching Footloose not long ago and Isla came in. I was like cleaning. I just put something on the TV to keep me company, right?
And who doesn't love Kevin Bacon?
Who doesn't love Footloose? And so she was like, what is this movie? And I said, it's Footloose. And I was like, I hate to say this, but I don't think you will ever understand the excitement when this movie came out.
Mm-hmm.
And the window of this part of our lives as Gen Xers, and actually even before, of how big a deal prom was,
Mm-hmm.
and who's going to ask me, and what are you going to wear? And because prom for them is all about friends.
Mm-hmm.
And well, I'm going to go with my friend, and I'm going to wear pants and like Converse tennis shoes. And I was like, oh, that pageantry, so to speak, of prom. They're not interested in, but I wonder if part of it is that they were in the pandemic and they were in their sweats, and that going from the sweats to the sequins is a little too big of a jump, because then they're exposing themselves if they're pretty.
It's also the relationship part I talk about. Like with Owen, even though he had Down syndrome, the kid loves the ladies. Like,
yeah.
And he was so excited to take his friend Lauren to prom.
Yeah.
And it was the couples thing. Because you remember how prom was like, oh my God, who am I going to go with? Like, it's like you spent your whole high school years thinking about it for your senior year.
Yes.
And there was that romance about it, even if you went with someone you weren't romantically involved. And I feel like now our kids, for the younger kids, it's safety in numbers. Like they don't want to actually be alone with one other person, whether it's the same sex or a different sex. Like I feel like that. And with Owen, I feel like, he said to me, Mom, I really want to have a girlfriend. I want to get married one day.
Oh.
And I was like, well, you will. Just, but he didn't lose the magic of that because he had gotten to past that point of the middle school years. And I just, it breaks my heart because I feel like how are they going to overcome that?
I wonder that too a lot, because I was so into boys, and I don't care if people are into whoever they're into.
Exactly.
But you're into being in a relationship. You know, I want to feel those things. Can't wait for him to kiss me, and when's he going to call me, and all that excitement and intrigue and mystery. That was part of the, like you said, romance. Yeah. And I think that that's too out there a little bit, too vulnerable. Maybe it's just a little too out there for them. For what I observe. Now, maybe it's different in different parts of the country. Maybe it's different for other people. But I hear that a lot from people who have kids our age, our senior and high school's age, is that they're just like, can't get past this certain point. And I wonder, too, you're going to go off to college and then after, all of this is practice. Right? It's all practice for when you actually find someone you really love. And if you haven't practiced failing at relationships or being made a fool of or making a fool of someone else, whether it be on purpose or not, and having to own those mistakes and overcome them and figure out how to behave differently, what do you do when you finally do meet someone? Or will you ever? Because you've never been brave enough to jump into a relationship. I mean, did you ever have a relationship where you go, oh, this is not the right guy for me, but I'm doing it anyway? And then you go, okay, that wasn't the right guy for me because of A, B, C, D, note to self. And then you learn about yourself. It's really about learning about yourself.
Well, then somebody told me that like what kids are doing are like, they're doing hookups.
Yeah, they're just hooking up.
Like, and I'm thinking like, okay, how, where, what? And I guess there's all these dating apps. I mean, I've been married to my husband for a bazillion years. I couldn't even tell you what the dating apps were because I've never had it to get on them.
Right.
But I'm like, hookups? Like, it just, I'm so shocked by this new, and then I'm like, I don't even know if my kids get out of the house enough to even
hook up.
Know if they're hooking up, right? Like they're just not outside my house.
Right. It's a detachment. I think what they had to do in COVID was detach. It's too painful to try to be attached to someone you're not going to see for indefinitely.
Right.
You just have to detach from your expectations, from your relationships, from your feelings, probably in a lot of ways. Or the feelings would cause a lot of anxiety, which also in some ways, anxiety is about not being in present time. It's about when you're anxious, you're worried about the future. You're worried about what's next. It's not present time, which is, it is what it is. I'm going to go play another round of Monopoly with my family and they'll be there or I'll be there when this is over. Right. But anxiety is about that win, and you're not in present time. So,
and funny enough, like, okay, so I like anxiety is the worst, but I think my anxiety's progressed to panic attacks and crippling disorders as I get older.
Really?
Just like, I mean.
I didn't know you had anxiety.
Yes.
Sorry if I was speaking out of turn. I live with 3 people who have a lot of anxiety panic attacks. Exactly that. Like heart racing, like body.
Well, and that's the thing is I never had them until I think, I guess probably perimenopause, I would say, maybe in my 40s. But I think, and part of it could have been having a child with a disability, having someone with Down syndrome, a baby, and then like a post-traumatic stress kind of thing. So mine is I can't drive over overpasses that look like they're tilted, right? So, and I kept thinking, where did this come from? I drove across the country from Michigan to LA when I was in my 20s. Like, I didn't look at Google Maps to make sure I wasn't going to hit an overpass or a bridge I couldn't drive.
All right.
But it just seemed like I was driving over, I think it was one of the overpasses, like on the 2, the 2 that goes up to La Crescenta. Yeah. It's not hard, but when you get on, I just felt like I was going to fall off.
Wow.
And I'm thinking, I'm in a car. I could fall off and die. And then the minute you have that, like I had a cold sweat, my heart was racing. I'm like, I can't drive over that again. And then the minute you can't drive, you think I can't do it because I'll have a panic attack. It looms so large in your life,
right,
that you're like, okay, I'm going to find every workaround to never have to drive over that again. And it's taken me a long time, but I've sort of tried to work through some of those because there was one day Owen had a Special Olympics at the crack of dawn, 7 a.m. And where was it? Oh. It was in La Crescenta. Oh. And I said, Derek, I'm going to take Owen. He's got to get there. And he literally was like, when I left, he tried to call me on my cell phone because he was like, you're going to have to drive the overpass.
Right.
And I just, how sometimes you think life or death, man, I got to do it. Yeah. So I just did it. And I was like, that wasn't as hard as I thought it was going to be.
Right.
I still can't drive over a bridge. Don't put me, I cannot drive over, like, I grew up in Michigan. We used to drive over the Bay Bridge, over the Great Lakes.
Yeah.
But I could not drive a bridge right now.
How about that?
And it becomes crippling in a way because I have to rethink where I drive. Mm-hmm. Like when Tess was doing volleyball, my daughter, she would have these early morning meets in Orange County. And in like on the way like when you get to Irvine, San Diego, some of these to get off the freeway, they're up, around, and down.
Yep.
And I look at it and I'm like, oh my goodness. So I passed the exit. She goes, Mommy, you're supposed to get off there. I'm like, I know. Give me a couple minutes. Let me see if I can redo this. And she's like, and so then I just went one more and it was not as bad. And I went over it and she's like, good job, Mom.
Good job.
She knew exactly what was going on.
That's so funny. Do you think anything, because I think about this a lot. Before I had kids, I had no fear of anything. Mm-hmm. If we are going to jump off a rock into the ocean, I'm in. If you want to ride dune buggies in the sand, I'm in. And I grew up doing all kind of stuff like that. As soon as I had babies, I was like, nope.
Yep.
I will not be doing that. And it wasn't even like a choice. It was an instinct. It was like butterflies, like heels dug in. I will not be doing that. Mm-hmm. Do you think it has something to do with that? HelloFresh is sponsoring Wife of the Party this week. I'm a big fan of HelloFresh. I love the convenience of it. It shows up on your doorstep. Fresh ingredients, easy to follow recipe cards, lots of variety. It's farm fresh ingredients. Everything's pre-portioned. You don't have to measure anything. No hassle. Very little waste. I mean, there's so many great things I can say about this. They have quick and easy meals. They have 15-minute recipes. They have calorie smart meals. They have protein smart meals. They have snacks. They have breakfast. They have all kinds of stuff. If you haven't already checked out HelloFresh, you don't know what you're missing. Go to HelloFresh.com/wifefree and use the code WIFEFREE for free breakfast for life. One breakfast item per box while subscription is active. That's free breakfast for life at HelloFresh.com/wifefree with the code WIFEFREE. America's #1 meal kit. We are supported by Woxer. Do you know what Woxer is? Woxer is a really cool company. It's female-founded underwear company. They have like sports bras and women's boxers, like boxer briefs, and they have women's underwear. The fabric is super soft, is very breathable. They sent me a ton, and I shared them with my daughters. My daughters are obsessed with them because they're so comfortable and soft. I like them too because they're comfortable and soft, but they also kind of breathe. They don't feel like you're wearing anything. They just feel like you're naked. It's pretty awesome, and they have cute prints and colors, so it kind of looks like outerwear. So you can wear them around if you wanted to. If you don't have to cover them up if you don't want to. It's kind of cool. So here's what I hate about underwear. I hate that underwear hits my stomach in the part where it like separates my tummy from the top tummy and the bottom tummy. Only the middle-aged women out there would understand it. But the way that their underwear is configured, it goes up high enough that I don't have that problem. So it's not uncomfortable, and you can't see my underwear line in my clothes. It's a boxer, so it goes down low enough on my jeans that I don't have any panty lines, and it doesn't cut my stomach in half. So I love them because they're comfortable, but they also look good like under clothes. If you want to experience all-day comfort and the softest underwear ever made, then you are in luck. Go to www.woxer.com and use the code WIFE15 to get 15% off your first order. Again, that's www.woxer.com, code WIFE15. Once you go Woxer, you'll never go back. Do you think it has something to do with that?
I think I do think that's a huge part of it, because suddenly, these babies, you are their, they're in your nest, man. They're your little baby birds. But I actually think a lot more of my, and again, everything else comes in play. I was the breadwinner, so I had to go to work every day. My husband stayed home with the kids, and there were trips I had to go on to. So my little, maybe I have fear of turbulence flying, became, I have to go to Toronto for a 2-week trip away from my kids. Oh my God, I hope I get there okay. I hope everything goes okay. But it was like this panicky fear that sort of sat at the base of my chest of like, but I have to do it because I have to pay the bills, and this is my job, and this is what I do. And I think it's just, it builds, what do they say? Anxiety is more of a long-term kind of thing, and panic attacks are more singular events. And I actually, in my book, I do address like a whole thing on mental health of like, the first year I had Owen, I cried every single day. Why me? Why me? Everyone else around me was having all these typical babies. And my husband like found a therapist for me. It took me forever to call her and go see her. And
Why?
I saw her for a year.
Why did it take you forever to call her?
Because, I grew up with this stigma. I grew up in the Midwest with a family that didn't believe in therapy and, just suck it up, man. You're good. We're very Catholic. Religion is key.
Well, that's really interesting to me, Suzanne, because you have taken the stance of just doing what you need to do to get Owen in the right place. So I would imagine that was a huge shift in you to go from that, where you came from mentality of no, just grit your teeth, get through it, to I'm going to get some help. I'm going to get, this is not like, I can have some help here. I need to get some help.
Yeah.
That had to be a big shift. A lot of people never are able to make that shift.
Yeah.
And I wonder if that first shift led to all the other pieces. Not that you wouldn't have fought for Owen or fought for him to be included, but I wonder how that one shift affected, if at all, anything else going forward.
I really think it did. I think it did. And I'll say, because one of the things so this therapist had dealt with parents of kids with special needs. Or kids, she had done groups of moms who had kids with Down syndrome specifically.
Okay.
And we got her from a woman at UCLA, gave me her number. And so when I got to the first therapy session, she knew what Down syndrome was. I didn't have to spend an hour just explaining what it was. And it was like, whew, she gets me.
Yeah.
She automatically gets me. She knows everything. And as a friend of mine said, you saved about 4 therapy sessions right there.
Right? Exactly.
And so one of the things is like, you know how the whole thing of like, you feel like if one thing happens and you feel like the other shoe's going to drop, something else bad is going to happen.
Yeah.
And that's where I feel like my panic just started. Like, okay, we had a kid with Down syndrome. What makes me think something else bad isn't going to happen? What makes me think something else bad? And I was having these like, thinking bad things were going to happen all the time. And she said to me, bad things happen to good people, but not all bad things happen to all the time.
Yeah.
They just happen.
Yeah.
Just deal with it and move on.
Mm-hmm.
But she said to me, why don't you bring Eric to one of your therapy sessions? And I was like, I don't know. Cause like, you just think like, what are you going to tell him? Like, this is our safe space, right? So he came in and she said to him, your wife feels like it was her fault that Owen had Down syndrome. Like maybe it was something she could have prevented, this and that. And like, cause you go through all that.
Yeah,
and
I would imagine.
We know it's totally, there's nothing you can do. It's just literally a fluke of nature.
Mm-hmm.
But when you hear people all the time say, oh, did you do something wrong? Like, it's just the ignorance of people. And to be honest, I just never thought I was going to have a child with Down syndrome. So, it just didn't. But anyway, so Eric comes in and he had Owen with him. So Owen was playing on the floor. And I would talk about this in my book. And she said, well, she thinks it's her fault, like something, or she feels bad about it and this and that. She said, what do you think? And Eric said, well, out of the millions of sperm that could have won the race, Owen won. There could have been a million typical kids. He won the race. He got life. This kid deserves to be here. He's amazing. And I was literally like, wow, I never thought of it that way.
Right? That's a good way of looking at it, right?
So it did imperceptibly, it changed how I thought of it. Like just all of a sudden I was like, yeah, he's supposed to be here.
Yeah.
And just that little bit, just for everything, then I was like, okay, let's do this. Like and I feel like everything that has happened in our lives, there's a reason it's happened. There's a reason we moved to this city to go to this school and it didn't happen. And you know what? There were 5 other kids that ended up going to that school with Down syndrome after Owen. Like there is, we're all quiet advocates in some way. We all are like,
But yeah, walking your path as an authentic person, as who you're truly meant to be, right? So this child was delivered to you, right? This was clearly your path. Like it, love it. This was your path. And so when you embrace that and you do your very best work, which is what I've seen you do always. Like I said, we were not super close in middle school. I've never seen you in a bad mood. I've never seen you without a smile. I've never seen you unhappy. Actually, the times I saw Owen through middle school, I never saw him in a bad mood. I never saw him unhappy. He was always social and happy to be there. And that inspires other people to walk their path by you walking your path in such a gracious and open and full way. As from the outside looking in, I've always thought you to be a very full family, very full. And so that 5 Down syndrome students followed Owen is proof that you were just walking the path you were supposed to be walking on, right? Because that's why we're here. We're not just here to live in a vacuum. Right. We're here to help each other in whatever way that is. If you are, I don't know, a mechanic and you fix somebody's car and it changes their life, that's part of your purpose. My dad's been a mechanic his whole life, and people may think that's a simple job. He gets people to and from work every day by keeping their car in the road. Yeah. That's really important.
And those people may be going to jobs that are saving other people's lives.
100%, because we all matter. Yeah. And my dad was the best mechanic for miles and miles, and his being the best inspired other people to be the best. So,
and it's rare to find a really good mechanic,
isn't it? It's impossible. Yes. Don't think I don't call him and go, so anyway, this guy in LA just told me, Daddy, and he'll be like, oh, that's not right. Okay, on the search continues.
But it's funny that, and I appreciate what you said about my demeanor, because I do really feel like some of those years when I was working my corporate jobs, I call them the angry years, right? Because I felt like there was so much on my shoulders. And I felt like not only was the work, but it was just, and in some ways, as much as I was like, it was because I'd come home and the house was a mess and the dishes weren't done and all this stuff. But on reflection, I feel like it's because I wasn't doing what I was supposed to be doing. I wasn't on the right path. I was on a path and I was supporting my kids. But when I got laid off from the last like corporate job I had, I started consulting. And consulting, I mean, for a year, we didn't make any money. But I just kept saying, it's okay. We're going to be fine. And I mean, I went from a big salary with benefits to now we have to pay for our own benefits and we have no money coming in. But it worked.
Yeah.
And then I started saying, now I need to write. I need to be writing. And I ended up consulting for Sony for a couple of years, writing journalism stories for them, which was great because I was writing.
Yeah.
And it just felt like I aligned myself a little bit more closer to the path that I was supposed to be on. And then now, like, I literally look at this book and think, wow, I actually completed something out of the chaotic mess that was like, and in fact, my desk at work was always so messy. And I could feel when bosses would come in and they would literally cringe looking at my desk. But they'd ask me for something. I'd be like, it's right here.
Yeah.
And when I put on events, they were always fantastic and meticulous. But I always have this like chaos on my desk. And I just think like, that's just how my brain works. Like I have to have that mess. And funny fact, I was reading the book Untangled, I think it is. Did you read that one? Great book. And I was just I was talking to a friend of mine about this the other day. She was saying how she couldn't stand that her daughter's room was such a mess, like whirlwind, chaotic mess. And I said, oh, no. Do not disturb that because they need that chaos. That is their comfort right now. Like there's a whole chapter in the book where she talks about when you're a teenager, your mind is a mess. You're trying to figure it out and you need that chaos. Your room is your sanctuary. And I thought back to my childhood and I was like, yep, I was the same way.
Yeah.
My room was always a whirlwind mess, but it was my mess.
Yeah.
It was my chaos.
Yeah.
And I knew exactly where to find the comfort spots in it.
I was that way too as a teenager. I was a complete mess. I am not that way so much now, but as a teenager, I was that way. I was really bad. And I have a teenager right now that is a mess too. However, I have to give a footnote/caveat to what you're saying. Mess and garbage are two different things. That child has garbage in her room. Like where I'm like, girlfriend, you got to take out the garbage.
And what about the plates? The plates with food on it drives me crazy.
The plates and the like.
And the half-filled cans
garbage.
Of whatever. And I'm like, should I call you a hoarder now?
That's what I just said. I just said, this is like an episode of Hoarders. Okay, we have just the garbage. Just take the garbage out. She did that. 6 bags of garbage came out of her room. I don't even know where all half this garbage was. I think some of it was under her bed. That she just started throwing it under her bed so I wouldn't see it. But I hear you. They need that control of that environment.
Yes. And Tess is very creative.
Isla too, yeah.
Very creative brain. And, she said, it turns out, like I found out about a year ago, I guess, that she said, Mom, when I read, I don't form pictures in my brain. When I read, I don't have images of what I'm reading. And I was like, oh my goodness. Like, then we got to figure out what that is. And so consequently, I'm like, how did you get by until your senior year without being able to read?
Right.
And so we got her in therapy, which has been a blessing. And she doesn't fit the stereotypical child like everyone else. She doesn't want to go to college. She wants to create art. She just painted her room the other day. This is a girl who literally, if I asked her to do something, won't do it. But she wanted to go to Home Depot, find the paint, get the thing, YouTubed how to do it all. Painted a room. She's been doing these amazing pieces of artwork.
Amazing.
She was in the advanced, she was doing ceramics. She was in the AP ceramics class at her high school. And her art teacher said she's phenomenal. And I keep saying, this is where you have to go this way. You have to fight for what you're good at doing. But
totally.
But again, COVID. Well, I don't want to do anything. The anxiety prevents our kids sometimes, at least I feel, from moving in a direction where they feel capable.
Right. I think you're right. And I think, I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see where this generation is in 5 years when they're out of college, right? Because they'll be out of college by then as a generation, not at maybe our
Thank God
kids.
she doesn't want to be a YouTuber at this point.
I know, right?
Didn't all your kids want? My kids were like, I'm going to be a YouTuber and make a bunch of money.
No, my kids never wanted to do that because their dad is so public.
Oh, that's true.
They were like, pass. I don't want anybody to know me at all.
That's true.
They just wanted to be, and they are pretty normal, but they just wanted to be really normal kids, which makes me really happy. Georgia just got a job on campus.
Nice.
And her dad was like, she's got a job? We can pay for everything. And I was like, dude, it's not about the money. She's 19.
Mm-hmm.
She needs a job. I was paying for my own college.
Me too.
All through college. Let the kid have a job. She's working 3 days a week. It's fine.
And it teaches them time constraints. It teaches them discipline.
Yeah.
It teaches them how to manage their schedule.
I know. And I said, aren't you proud of her that she wants a job? And Bert's response was, I've never wanted a job my entire life. What person in her right mind would want a job? And I was like, mostly everybody else, just not you, because you're just not regular. And you do have a job. Bert works harder than anybody I've ever known in my life, except he works at what he likes.
He has a brand. That is his job.
Yeah, but I mean, boy's not going to do laundry and put it away.
Right.
He's not going to. That laundry will rot in a pile and he'll throw it out and buy more before he'll do laundry. And so you go, okay, well, that's his distinction.
Right.
Is that those kind of like executive function skills are not his strong suit. But he can write jokes about anything and he can stand on stage in front of people and entertain.
Which most people cannot do.
Yeah.
And by the way, we don't need everyone to be housekeepers, because if we did, what would this world be? Very clean.
Very clean, but maybe boring.
Right.
Maybe pretty boring. So what do you think why would I read this book if I don't have a Down syndrome child?
Let's see. That's a good question.
Because I'm going to read it.
Other than you know me and you want to read it.
Yes.
Let's see. So I think one of the things is it's not just about having a child with a disability.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of it's a story about a mom who's going along and then got a diagnosis. Mm-hmm. And just sort of the lessons that came along with it. Mm-hmm. And every parent learns lessons throughout raising kids, regardless. I mean, like I said to a friend of mine, everyone gets a diagnosis somewhere, whether it's cancer with a parent or one of their kids or an accident or, there's always going to be something. There's always going to be trauma. And I think what I love so much about this book and what friends have told me that they love about it is that it's about how I looked inside myself and said, I am going to manage this. I'm going to make him a part of society. I'm going to give him a magical life. Mm-hmm. And for whatever that looks like. And some people may look at him and go, he has Down syndrome, he has a disability, But I think about the people he's touched. Mm-hmm. I think about how he draws people to him. Like I always say, ever since we had him in class, fully included, there was always the kids who found him. There were those kids that didn't care, but the kids that found him are still to this day always call him. They want to see him. He'll call friends at colleges across the country somewhere, and I'll be like, who are you talking to? Oh, Aiden, this kid he's known since second grade. And they're like, Owen. And it's like when he calls them, you can hear this delight in their voice because it's like home, right? Yeah. Like, so there's something, it's hard to explain, but he's just always been my teacher. I mean, it took me a long time to recognize that, but because of his simpleness, the simplicity, the way he lives his life. I mean, this kid, he doesn't know what it means to be jealous. I asked him one day, he's like, what does that word mean, Mom? He doesn't know how I said, Owen, do you hate anyone? He said, Mom, why would I hate someone? He doesn't live, that yesterday is yesterday. He loves to revisit memories, but he doesn't I'll say, oh, why'd I do that? And I'll rework something in my mind I did 10 days ago. he doesn't, it's gone. Like he lives in the moment. And that's so rare for anybody to really achieve that.
It's beautiful.
And it's a life that I feel like for whatever reason, God was like, you need this human in your life to teach you to try to live in the moment. It's taken me, I'm 56, it's taken me this long to finally get to doing what I think is like my life's work. But he's so zen about his life. And the lucky few is one of sort of the taglines that we say, because parents who have a kid with Down syndrome, we consider ourselves the lucky few. And I feel blessed. I feel so lucky that that I get to live with them every day and wake up to him. And when he was younger, he had we started noticing him when he was about 10 or 11 or 12. At least one time a day, he'd say, today is the best day ever. And he'd say it every day.
Every day.
And I was like, wow, I got to look at life that way too.
Heck yeah. That is a great thing. Today's the best day ever. We should all say that every single day. I'm going to start saying that too.
And live it that way.
And live it that way, yeah.
Sometimes we have those days, but kids with Down syndrome have a way that they go through emotions. Like, look, everyone says, oh, they just love everybody all the time. No, they get mad. I've seen him get mad at his brother. I've seen him try to take his brother down. But his brother Axel is always like, it's fun to watch the three of them together, Tess, Axel, and Owen. But Owen will get, when we had a friend of ours pass away, it was my mother-in-law's best friend, and she was almost 100.
Oh, wow.
And after my mother-in-law passed away, Owen would call her, and she was 95 years old. He'd call her once a month. Hi, Bernice, how are you? It's Owen. They'd have a long conversation for 10 minutes. And she loved when he would call him. And that's the thing. He doesn't distinguish oh, she's old, I can't be friends with her. So there's so many people where he's like that. He just loves to talk to people, to be with people. And I just feel and then when she passed away, he cried really, really hard. Body shaking hard, tears coming down for about 5 minutes. And then he was done. And it's every time something really sad has happened, he experiences emotion really, really hard, and he gets through it. And what do? We pack it away. We try not to cry. We think we'll deal with it later, and we never do.
You're right.
But they do.
That's awesome. Yeah. And is that something that's typical of a Down syndrome person?
I feel with the friends he knows, I feel it is.
Yeah.
I don't know, because there's also a lot of people who have Down syndrome who also have a dual diagnosis of autism. So I think that it then becomes different in the way they might experience emotions. But for the most part, I feel people with Down syndrome really learn. And I've heard this from other friends of mine who have a kid with Down syndrome.
Well, I know kids are our biggest teachers. I agree with that so much. I've learned so much from having my kids and just observing them and applying to myself what you observe. He's such a lovely young man.
Oh, thank you.
I'm so happy that you wrote this book.
Thank you.
And I'm Raising Owen, it's called, by, tell me how to say your last name.
Lezotte.
Suzanne Lezotte. Raising Owen. Again, it's a really beautiful cover too.
Thank you. And that was my friend, Lisa Thomas. So I was saying, she also went, her youngest daughter was Owen's age. When I was trying to get all the pieces together. I sent my book out to 30 agents. Nobody bothered to respond. And so I was like, okay, I guess I have to self-publish this, is what the next step was. So I found a small publisher. I guess it's more like a hybrid publisher who helped me shepherd the book to print. But I own the rights to it. So if some big publisher comes along and wants to help me get it out there larger, I could. But I went to my friend Lisa and I said, I don't even know where to start to find a cover designer. Do you do this? And because I know she's designed amazing things. And she said, yeah, let me give it a shot. And it was so much fun because she gave me 10 wildly different designs. And she said, I'm going to give them to you, print them out, put them on a book, just grab books around your house, cut it out and put it on it's the cover of the book. And then just have them randomly lying around your house and see what strikes you. And I thought that was such a great idea. So I had all these books in my office and different covers, and I kept looking at them, and then I came down to 2, and that cover for whatever reason, and of course, you go on these webinars and they say, don't make a dark cover because it doesn't stand out on Amazon. All these ways
Beautiful. What are you talking about?
But to me, that cover is so magical.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that's one of the things I love is that life is magical. Kids are magical, no matter their disability. And we just really have to see the magic in them.
And parenting is magical. If you parent with, I think, if you parent with the desire of asking the question, who are you? Instead of this is who you are.
Right.
Who are you? And being able to discover that is so amazing.
Don't you love watching your kids just like, sometimes I just want to stare at them and watch what they say and how they move through their world and the things they want to talk about. And to me, it's so fascinating.
It is so cool. Being a parent's been the best thing I've ever done, I think.
Me
it
too.
was really great. I didn't think I'd have kids. I had no interest in having kids.
Me neither.
None whatsoever. Really?
You and I are a lot more alike than we think. I thought, I'm going to have Owen and I'm going to be done, one and done.
Oh, no. I was like, nah, I might get married. I'll see. I'm not sure. I'm probably not going to have kids. I'm going to stick with my career. And then I got pregnant on the pill. So I went, well, guess what? Pivot. I'll be a mom now. And once that happened, I was like, well, this is my path. Because when something like that happens, just like you having Owen, when something like that happens, then this is your path.
Yeah.
So you can choose to walk the path or you can fight it. And when you're fighting your path, you do end up really angry and aggressive and negative and dark. Maybe not dark in the dark Marilyn Manson dark, but it's still, it's a darkness. You should be light, or should's a bad word, but the goal is, I guess, to be light as much as you can be because it's a lot easier to carry than dark. And being light inspires other people to be light also.
Well, and I really think, I kind of think that God kind of decided that, no, it wasn't just going to be Owen. And I think Owen made me want more kids because at the end of the day, I was like, well, I loved being pregnant. And I'll tell you right now, we did not test on Owen. That's why we didn't know till he was 7 days old. And people always say, well, why didn't you test? And I think about it. Well, first of all, I had told Eric, do you want to test? I'm not going to test. I'm Catholic. So regardless, I'm going to have this baby. And so he thought about it and he said, I don't think our kids should really have to pass or fail a test before they're born. I was like, good answer.
Eric's awesome. So far, he's hitting dingers. He's great.
So obviously we were very, I was thinking, oh, this is great. And my family breeds well. I have 45 first cousins because my dad had 11 brothers and sisters.
Wow.
Yeah. So I don't even know all their names.
That's crazy. 45's a lot.
Yeah. So I really thought I was arrogant enough to believe I wasn't going to have a child with a disability. And, sometimes, it's the path. And I really believe that Owen and Tess were meant to be here, or Tess and Axel were meant to be here because I feel like if I had had my last first, I probably would have been done.
Right.
But I feel like I was like, no, I need to, at some point, right the wrong, have a typical child. And with Owen, I got pregnant the minute we started trying.
Right.
With Tess and Axel, I struggled more.
Did you really?
So I thought it was funny. And then when I was pregnant with Axel, I was almost 41. So I had to change doctors because of insurance. Gotta love insurance. And I went into my doctor's office and I said, I'm 12 weeks pregnant. I'm almost 41. I am your statistic. Already had the kid with Down syndrome. So you don't need to give me any lectures. And I'm not testing.
Yeah.
And he said, I have a grandson with Williams syndrome. They're amazing. They're gifts from God. He goes, let's have a baby.
Awesome.
And I was like, this is a sign from the universe.
Yeah, this is the right person for me.
That's right.
That's so cool.
So I probably told you all the stories in the book by now. No, I'm just kidding.
Are all these in the book?
A couple of them. But
Well,
you'll love the ones from middle school because they're sweet. And I don't know if Georgia went to the dance they had 8th grade.
Oh, did she?
Okay.
Yes, she did.
Owen didn't want me at the dance either because he had to be just like the typical kids. Like they all, by middle school, they're like, don't look at me, don't talk to me, drop me off a half a mile from the school.
Yep.
But I said to Owen, I'm like, oh, I'm going with you. And he's like, no, you're not, Mom. And I'm like, yes, I am. I'm helping in the kitchen. Don't worry. You'll never see me. Because I wanted him to be as typical as the kids and be with them. And I got to tell you, I cried. It was the most beautiful 8th grade dance. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if
I was there. I was in the kitchen also.
Yeah. So that's probably where we met or like had more time to talk, because remember how we were inside and like dancing outside and the roses were all there and the balloons. And
we're trying to peek through the window. We were trying to see. We were trying to spy.
And it was, to me, one of the most sweetest moments of like graduating them into the next part of their life.
Mm-hmm. It was a great little dance. Mm-hmm. Do you remember the PE teacher? What was her name? She's passed away.
Yes, it was. And she was out there dancing.
Oh my gosh, she was cutting a rug, and she was in her 70s.
Yes,
and she was throwing down. I don't remember. She was George's
teacher. It's so funny
teacher.
because I thought none of the kids liked her, and then when she passed away, they were all sobbing.
I know, same.
And I'm like, I thought you guys didn't like her because you said she was hard. And they're like, yeah, but she was really cool, Mom.
Yeah.
Like, okay.
She was an institution there. Mm-hmm. She taught so many people for so many years, and everybody, she was just too hard.
Yes. So there was another PE teacher. I can't believe I'm forgetting her name. I'm so sorry. But so our first day of 6th grade, you know, when you went and you went to the classroom, so it was Owen's 6th grade, orientation. Mm-hmm. So we're walking around or it was back to school night.
Yes.
Because I remember being there walking around with Owen, and all of a sudden this woman comes up to me and says, "Is this your son?" And she starts crying. I'm like, yeah. And I'm like, why? And she goes, "I just had a little boy with Down syndrome." She's like, "I'm so happy to see him walking around campus. I'm so happy. He looks so great." And because the perspective new parents are still getting, and we're getting, is that they won't be able to do much.
Right.
They're going to be in a classroom, like with all these other kids. They're never going to be integrated. They're never going to be included. And I'm hearing from parents still to this day that same thing. And it's like, no, people, we've got to flood the streets with our kids. We got to flood the classrooms with our kids.
I agree. It's crazy that they're still saying that even today.
Yeah.
That's really crazy. It's crazy that you have to fight for your kid to get what they deserve. It's their right, really, to be in the least restrictive environment. And, of course, there are some children who that is impossible. Of course, there are human beings on the planet that just can't function that way.
Absolutely, and it is, like I said, it is every parent and every child's. You have to find the right place for them.
Yeah,
it doesn't mean you can't still include them in the world.
100%
part of the landscape, because typical kids need to see our kids. They need to be around our kids.
Yeah,
how are they going to learn more empathy for the world? How are these inclusion and diversity programs at all these, every company going to work if people don't know what diversity is or what inclusion is?
And people are afraid of things they don't understand. Things it's just like a biological piece. It's a survival piece to go, I don't understand what that is, and I need to not be with that. Whatever that is, with that being someone that has crazy curly hair, where you go, I don't understand what that is. How do you manage that?
Right.
You know what I mean? I don't even talk to you about your hair, because I don't even know what's going on with your hair. So if you're not exposed to people and things that are outside of your wheelhouse, everything becomes scary. It just becomes really scary. I know I grew up, my mom and dad divorced when I was 7 in 1977. My mom moved me to Atlanta in the middle of the gay community. So I grew up with a bunch of gay men. Right. So I don't see any difference my whole life in gay and straight. They're just people who love each other. But then I'd go back to my dad's in a really small town, and that was so like, no. It's really against the religion. And I go, but I don't get it. But they're not exposed to it. There was no one in our town who was out of the closet. There was no one in our high school who was out of the closet. There are gay people everywhere in our town, but they're not out. So how am I supposed to learn? Except I got the gift of being put in a community where I got to learn.
Right.
And then that is just normal.
Well, and the thing is, so I grew up in Michigan, right? Just outside of Detroit. And we didn't, same thing. It's, people don't, when we go back, I rarely see same-sex couples around.
Totally.
But my kids, where they went to elementary school, 2 moms, 2 dads, it was half their lanes, not half, but there were a lot of kids that grew up that way.
Yeah.
So to my kids, that's normal.
Yeah, totally.
That's okay. Like that's accepted.
Yeah.
When I would go back to Michigan, they'd be like, what? Like it was just like.
Well, the reverse is true too, because I took my kids to Montana once and we went in a convenience store that was literally completely full of taxidermy.
Oh.
And they were like, what is happening? And I'd have to say, Montana's hunters. Hunting is a game. It's a sport. Most hunters actually eat what they kill. It's a completely different mentality. It's not something you or I would ever do. We would save every animal on the planet, and then we would, guess what, not be able to live here. There'd be so many animals on the planet. So you can't walk into their environment and go, evil. Right. You have to walk into their environment and try to understand it. And
the other thing, I grew up in, my dad hunted, my brothers hunt.
Yeah.
My parents had 9 kids. So how do you feed 9 kids?
Yeah.
My dad hunts deer, and we would come in and the deer would be hanging there while they,
dressed it.
Yes. Yeah. And so, but, it's just venison was part of what we had to eat in the winters.
Venison sausage, venison chili. Mm-hmm. It's really good.
But the liver and onions.
Pass. Hard pass.
We weren't allowed to pass. You had to sit there until you ate it.
Oh.
Yep.
I don't know if I could have done that. I stay in Georgia.
We didn't have a dog. That's the bummer. If we had a dog, we all could have slipped it to him.
All right. Well, anyway, I am very excited to read your book. Thank you. I'm sorry I didn't get to read it before you came here.
That's okay. And, I just want to say it's not, I don't get buried in the weeds with like, this is what we did for therapy every day. This is what we did. Because I feel like it's really about, it's more than that. It's about a story of a time, and it's not a long book. I literally have had people say they've read it in 2 days. They couldn't put it down, which is so great.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's a little bit more of a, not so much about the day to day. It's more about my observations of my life as it unfolded with my beautiful, magical child with Down syndrome.
It sounds like a journey. Mm-hmm. As opposed to like a handbook.
Exactly.
It sounds like a journey, your journey with Owen.
Yeah. And I hope people can take nuggets out of it and be like, yeah, that's how I felt. But I didn't want to overload people with, the nuts and bolts of it all.
Totally. Because everybody's nuts and bolts are going to be different anyway.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The journey is what you really connect to, the emotional and the kind of mental piece, not mental in math.
Right, but absolutely.
Yeah, the mental health, mental processing of it all. Well, I can't wait to read it.
Well, thank you.
Thank you for coming. So where can someone buy the book?
It's available on bookshop.org, which if you do bookshop, then you can designate a local bookstore that they'll give a portion to profits. So that supports local bookstores, or Amazon or barnesandnobles.com.
Great.
And I actually am going to have a book signing at Barnes & Noble's in Westlake Village in April of 2024.
Amazing.
Yeah, so I'm excited about that.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, I forget the date. I don't have my phone with me.
Well, text me, and I have a website. I'll put a link to the book on the website.
Awesome.
And then if you give us the dates, we can put your signing on the website too.
I would love that.
Yeah. Thank you so much for coming.
Thanks so much. I'm so glad we got to chat about everything.
It's nice to see you also.
I know.
Nice to see you. I'm so glad Christy suggested it. So thank you, Christy.
I know. I'll have to tell Chris. She's like, text me when it's over. I want to see how it went. So.
Oh, well, she should have known it would have gone great because we're both really good chatty.
I know.
Nice people.
Well,
but
I love this. I could chat all day.
Thank you. Thank you.
What do we do about Owen, though?
Well, I know we got to go start prepping. Well, it's a little too early to prep for Thanksgiving. I have family in town, so we're going to dinner. Today's our last work day, and then we're going to.
Okay, so you're from Atlanta, though. You live.
I'm from Georgia. I'm from a small town and also Atlanta.
Okay.
My parents.
I really like Atlanta. I thought if I ever had to move further back east again, I'd probably try Atlanta.
A lot of people really like Atlanta.
I can't do cold anymore again.
Yeah, Atlanta's cold, though.
Yeah, but not like winter Chicago.
Oh, not
Detroit
like Michigan.
Cold. No.
But I haven't lived in Atlanta since '93.
Yeah.
So I don't know much about it. Today, when we go home, we just go to my dad's house, and it's really, really rural.
Yeah.
It's my hometown. It's really like literally Okay, our middle school had 1,800 students.
Right.
My hometown is 1,600 people.
Oh my God.
So we go to middle school with Georgia and Isla, and I go, this is my whole hometown.
Oh my goodness.
First period is my hometown.
That is so funny.
Isn't that crazy? So we just go straight from the
So
airport.
how many people were in your high school? When your school?
I graduated with 74.
That's it?
Yep.
Okay,
so-
I don't feel, mine was at least 300.
In your graduating class?
Yeah.
Our whole school was roughly 400 students, 9th through 12th grade.
So everybody knew you. Everybody knew
Everybody
about
everybody.
you.
I had 2 options for boyfriends, and both of them were my third cousins. It was pretty
See, and
slick.
after high school, I just wanted to get out of Dodge. I was like, I can't be in. So I went to school in Western Michigan University, which, back then it was an agriculture school and it was like 20th on this list of good schools. Now it's like the third best school in Michigan.
Wow.
So I'm like dusting off my diploma.
Yeah,
Like, it may have
right?
been 35 years ago, but whatever.
But who cares?
I went there.
We live in today, don't we? We live in today.
Yes.
Yes. That's great.
But yeah, so.
Well, thank you for coming, Suzanne.
Thanks so much. I totally appreciate you. I love doing this.
It was really fun.
It was fun.
We'll come back again and we'll talk about something else.
Yes, that would be fun.
Something more. We should do that.
You got plenty of great time. When I was watching your podcast with Isla and Bert, and they're so cute together.
Yeah.
And I was like, I should write that down. We should talk about that. I should write that down. And then you were talking to Rachel Hollis, and you guys started talking about menopause and perimenopause. I'm like, darn it, I could be in on that conversation.
Yeah, right? I know. That's the thing.
What you got to do is we got to get some ladies together.
Heck
Wouldn't
yeah.
that be fun?
Well, yeah. That's what my podcast started as, was me and ladies talking about whatever we felt like talking about. And then it shifts. I kind of ebb and flow in and out of what I'm interested in.
Mm-hmm.
So the good and the bad about my podcast is it doesn't really have a theme.
Yeah, but I kind of like that because you're not like, you don't have a list of 20 questions of like,
No.
It's
It's just about a conversation. And I find that I like conversations. I'm very curious.
and I love your accent. I was
Well-
telling Christy that.
That's so funny. I don't think I have one.
You do a little bit. It's not like deep South.
It's there.
Yeah.
I don't know. I would love to have some
People
girlfriends
think
over.
when I moved to LA, people thought I had a Michigan accent.
Well, I hear when you say Michigan.
So funny enough, when people, I was like, what do you mean? I don't have a Michigan accent. So when people would say that to me, I was literally like, I do not. And I wanted so badly to seem like I was part of LA, like I was in LA, that I started changing it. I was like, volleyball, not volleyball. Cat, like not cat. Like I totally changed my A's and my O's. And now my family's like, oh my God, you sound like such a Cali girl.
But you've been here a while though, huh?
A long, long time.
Yeah, me too. I left in 93. I moved here in 97.
I left in 1990.
Yeah, so there you go.
Yeah.
You are a Cali girl.
I'm definitely,
You've been here longer than you live there?
yep, I've been here. That's true.
Same. I've been
Yeah.
here longer than I lived in Georgia.
And what's scary is I've known my husband almost more than half my life
Have I known mine for almost 4?
because we dated
quite
for
yet.
7 years and then got married, and we've been together 21 years,
Amazing.
22.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
He sounds really great.
He's a great guy.
That's great.
He's a good dad.
Well, come back maybe with maybe Christy will come back and we can talk
That
about
would be fun.
who knows what.
Yeah.
Have a little wine, get
That
a
would
little
be
loose.
fun. I wonder what Christy would say. I love Christy. She's very,
She has the best laugh.
she does.
When you make her laugh, you feel like you've really done something,
That's true.
right?
That's true. Have you
'Cause-
done any of her? She does yoga. So this is how, during COVID, she started doing yoga in her driveway.
Yeah, I know.
And so I was doing that, but then we moved. So it was but she and Lisa and Jen and Christy, we have this 4 of us that will put these really long hikes on the book.
Uh-huh.
So, and it started because during COVID, we just go, let's go for a walk. And we walk like 5 miles in the neighborhood because I'm a huge, like, I can do plenty of hike. Like I'm a big hiker,
Yeah.
right?
Uh-huh.
But not mountain climbing hiking. Like,
Yeah.
like you can't, I get vertigo. And you know that overpass thing? Well,
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
what
same,
happens
same.
when I get up high.
Right. Sounds like it. Yeah.
So we were like, okay, let's do this hike. So we did a couple, and then and Christy said, let's do Bridge to Nowhere. And I'm like, that sounds bad. But
Did you say bridge? Is that
to
what you
nowhere,
said?
right? Right. And so then, but I was like, okay, my feet are on the ground. I can do this. I could walk over a bridge.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't know if I could drive it because when you're driving, you got a 4,000-pound machine in your hands. And what if you pass out?
Yeah, right.
Then what happens?
Yeah.
And that's my biggest fear. So we hiked this. I'm not kidding you. It was the hardest thing that I have ever done. 5 miles up to the bridge, which they built in the 30s or 40s to connect the towns of like, it's south of Azusa in the mountains there. It was meant to connect the next town over. But I guess they had some big rains and it washed out the road to the bridge. So they just left the bridge.
Right.
So the bridge is like pristine. It would have been like a car bridge, like you're driving over. And it's beautiful. But you have to hike, you have to follow this creek, and you have to ford the creek at least 5 times. And the water's like this deep running. And I had no idea we were being like forging a river, right?
Yeah.
So we didn't bring sticks. And then we had to like kind of boulder climb like some areas.
So serious.
Some areas were like there's a drop off and you got to climb around the mountain. 5 miles in, 5 miles back.
Wow.
I felt so accomplished. I was like, I have faced more fears today than on any other hike.
I have laughed in the face of death and lived to tell. That's great. She invited me on a hike.
Switzer Falls.
Yes. And I couldn't go.
On that one.
I don't remember. I had something going on and I was like, I just can't go because I have something going on like the next day where if I went, I wouldn't be able to do whatever. I don't even remember what it was.
Yeah.
But
so our last hike we did was because I'm in Westlake Village. And part of it is because we own a house in Malibu that we rent. So we moved that way just so we could be closer to that. But bonus, we're 20 minutes from the beach. So Tess will go, let's go watch the sunset tonight. And I'm like, okay.
Let's do it.
It's literally like 15 minutes over the hill. So I said, there's a hike that goes from Thousand Oaks all the way to the ocean.
Wow.
And it's 9 miles.
Wow.
And I said, let's do it. And so we had my husband picked us up on the way. So we hiked all the way through. And it's really kind of a flat hike. It goes down in the mountain and it's fairly flat. If you walk back up, then you have to hike back up out of the mountain. So that's the hard thing. People bike ride it a lot because it ends up being 18 miles. But it was really, the time just goes by. It took us an hour and 45 minutes, almost 2 hours.
Not bad.
No.
Did you do that with Christy?
With Christy was supposed to come. She couldn't. It was me, Lisa, and Jen. So I told her we have to do it again.
Yeah.
So.
Well, invite me on that one.
We should because you know what? It's almost like this expansive time where you can talk about anything and the conversation just kind of like your podcast. It just sort of goes from conversation to conversation.
Yep.
And in no time at all, you're like, oh, we're done.
We're here.
We got exercise. We talked.
That's awesome. Well, I would love to join you sometime.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
Okay, good. I will let them know.
Well, you have to call Christy or text her when you get in the car.
Well, we talked about doing one maybe in December.
Oh, good.
But you travel a lot.
I do, but I'm going to be traveling next week and then for 2 days in December, and then I should be home until January, and then I'm traveling a couple weeks in January, and then
we'll just let you know. And
just keep me in the loop.
It sure beats doing Fryman over and over again. Right?
I know. Yes, it's true. And I love being invited.
Yes.
As long as no one minds that I have to say no often, only because I have other obligations, not because I don't want to be there.
Right.
Always I want to do everything, but
I know, right?
We can't all do everything. Well, thank you,
and now
Suzanne.
you have this empire. You're
well, hardly, but I do work a lot.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
So,
are we done? Okay, we're done.
I don't know. Are we done?
We can be done.
Oh no!
Thank you, Suzanne.
Well, thank you.